Welcome back to my Mental Health and Crime channel. My name is Huda London. I'd like to start by wishing everyone a pleasant and blessed week. This is the case of the Idaho quadruple murders. The victims were Madison Morgan, Kaylee Congalvis, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Conodle. May they rest in peace, condolence to their families, and may the correct justice be served. This is a serious case because if Brian Koberger is found guilty, he will be facing the capital punishment. He's been charged for these 4 innocent victims as murder. But I've started this case from the beginning for a very good reason. I always believe that the truth lies, or some of the truth lies always in the beginning. As a licensed mental health counselor, cognitive behavior therapist, when we work with our clients, we try to do a case study of their lives. It depends what therapy we are working on, but it's always good to have enough information of the client's childhood, life, families, friends, loved ones. And that's how I try to research and find out more about these cases. These 4 precious young victims who lost their lives in such a horrific manner, which no human being deserves, have a story. They have loved ones. They were living their life to the fullest. But we need to know what their story was like before this horrific murders took place. Not only are these 4 victims' families and friends suffering, I have to mention this. I believe Brian Christopher Koberger, whether he's guilty or whether he's innocent of these crimes that he's been accused of, he has parents too. He has sisters too. And I don't think it's fair that they are dragged into this mix. I was reading an article a couple of months ago where Brian Koberger's sisters had both lost their jobs, their livelihoods. One of his sisters is a mental health counselor like me. I heard she's a school counselor, and I've heard that she deals with emotional therapy. I'm not sure of that. But I can imagine how hard she must have worked and gone to university to get a mental health counseling degree. And now that she lost it due to her brother being accused of these horrific murders, is not right. I don't think any sibling needs to be punished for what their sibling has chose to do. So there are many families that are grieving, and I just don't like the way Brian Kohlberger is addressed in the media, in social media, because we have been taught that nobody is guilty until proven guilty. What happened to that? There's a reason, there's a court, judge, defense attorneys, prosecutions, juries, the public. And the reason all that is made for is to prove that the person is guilty. This case is one case that changes every second day. Nothing seems to make sense anymore. That's why it's important to go back to the beginning. And that's what I intend to do today. So welcome.
4 University of Idaho students were learning now that just after 3 in the morning, police got a call about a disturbance outside a frat house, just a short walk from the crime scene. The murders happened not long after that call. But is there a connection? Jim Murray reports.
A mysterious 911 call sent cops rushing to the street the night the 4 University of Idaho students were murdered. Police logs from that fateful night show a disturbance in this field outside the Sigma Chi fraternity. The Moscow, Idaho Police Daily Activity Log reveals officers responded to an alcohol offense at 3:01 a.m. That's right around the time police say the murders were committed. How close is that frat house to the murder scene? Let me show you. Here's the frat house. You walk across the street and right through these apartment buildings. You then continue up this narrow path, and then you walk up these wooden stairs. And there you are, right at the house. We spoke with Brian Enton, senior national correspondent for the cable news channel News Nation, which is airing a 1-hour special on the case Sunday.
There's a lot of fraternity and sorority houses, and an alcohol call wouldn't be out of the norm. But it's still just weird to think about the fact that the police were so close to this house around the time the murders were happening.
In a Save It Today to Inside edition, police said the incident is unrelated to the murders. The frat house is also under the microscope because 2 of the victims, Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle, partied there that night. Investigators are also revealing there was a 6th roommate who lived in the house who wasn't home that night. There was Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, and Madison, the 2 surviving roommates who slept through the attack, and now the 6th young lady whose name we are withholding. Detectives are aware of a 6th person listed on the lease at the residence, but do not believe that individual was present during the incident, a police statement says. There were scenes of raw emotion at a memorial service for all 4 victims at a church in Idaho. Among the mourners, Madison Mogan's boyfriend, Jake.
I know she's in heaven, and I can't wait to see her again.
Also classmates and sorority sisters.
My heart aches knowing I can't see her again in this lifetime. We'll find justice for you, Ethan, Maddie, and Kaylee. We love you all so much.
And Xana Kernodle's heartbroken dad.
She taught me a lot of stuff. She taught me how to be a dad. And I didn't know that until she was gone, you know?
The police chief has vowed to not let this case go cold, saying they will work continuously to find as many answers as they can.
Shell new detail about the Idaho murders could change everything we think we know about the case so far. A neighbor told our Daily Mail reporters that they saw this door right here, the front door to the house, wide open at around 8:30 in the morning on November 13th, that Sunday, hours after 4 people in that house would be murdered and before their bodies would be discovered. The murders are suspected to have taken place between 3 and 4 a.m. That is an approximation, and as of right now, we don't have any other information to indicate how long this door might have been left ajar. And here is how this new detail could potentially change things. You'll remember that in the early days of the investigation, pretty much everyone was suspicious about why the 2 roommates downstairs on the first floor were alive and unharmed. Many people moved on from those suspicions when we learned that allegedly investigators believe the killer entered through this sliding glass door on the second floor or one of the nearby windows also on the second floor. The murders took place on the second floor and the third floor. The two surviving roommates lived on the first floor. So the theory there is, if the killer entered on the second floor and then went upstairs and then exited through the second floor, they would have had no need to go to that bottom floor. But if this front door right here on the first floor was used by the killer, either on their way in or on their way out, we are back at square one with questions as to why these two first floor roommates were not harmed.
I find this to be one of the most important news reports by Daily Mail. Because at the start, in the beginning, I don't know how many of us was aware of that the police actually thought that the suspect or suspects could have entered from the sliding door, yes, that we knew, or from the windows on the second floor. Now my question is, we have two windows on the second floor when we're facing the front of the building, and I believe we have one or two windows above the sliding door. We saw a ladder next to Xana Kernodle, may she rest in peace, his room. And I remember we used to all make a debate and discuss about the ladder, but the police never explained what was the purpose that the ladder was right underneath Xana Kernodle's room. Then we hear from Daily Mail, and I've heard that from the police too, Chief Fry did actually say that the front door was open, but he could not discuss about that until the trial begins. Why was the front door left open? We have been told that Brian Koberger came after the delivery guy around 4:05, and he entered from the sliding door that was unlocked. That's what the police originally believed. But it is interesting that the front doors were left open. The front door. Because according to the two surviving roommates, DM and BF, we know that they called multiple people from Sigma Chi. They called some friends over, and the friends made a call from the roommates, the surviving roommates' phone. They didn't even call the police. They called 911. They called the medical service because they believed that one of their roommates was unconscious and wouldn't get up. Now, these are the facts of the case so far. Multiple people were on the phone talking to 911. We have heard plenty of times, even from the coroner, that this was a bloody crime scene. Trigger warning. So now you can imagine 4 people have been brutally killed by a sharp-edged weapon, a knife, etc., or knives. So why would the multiple people on the scene assume that somebody's unconscious? We could literally see the blood, trigger warning, pouring from the outside of the house, from Ethan and Xana's room, or Xana's room. May they rest in peace. Was it that these roommates and the multiple people were so scared and so shocked that they saw someone on the floor that they didn't even notice blood? I find that hard to believe. Point being, these multiple people were called by the surviving roommates, according to the roommates, around, should we say 11:30, 11:40, before they came and they decided to call the police or 911. So who left the front door open? It was a cold night, a chilly night. So if the front door was open the whole night, wouldn't BF feel the coldness, the draft coming through the door? Because this is a house that is quite old, and winters can be really cold in Idaho. So something doesn't make sense there.
Doors of the 4 murdered University of Idaho students have electronic locks like this. A former tenant posted this photo and says all 6 bedrooms had combination locks. It's believed the students had a lock on their door similar to this. This is a keypad lock, and I'm at AAA Architectural Hardware in Manhattan with Richard Brown, who is the owner. Are these things reliable?
They're very reliable when they're installed properly and when they're used properly. You press the code that was pre-programmed in, push down on the lever handle, open the door, and then close the door behind you. And it should be locked.
Only when I am alone.
But this was a party house. Many may have known the combinations.
Meet you at the house, let yourself in. The kids do that all the time.
Hey, Moscow police, come back here.
Meanwhile, Inside Edition has obtained this body cam video taken on the night of the murders, a short distance from the house.
It's one thing to drink in an apartment where no one can see you. It's another thing for us to drive by and see you guys absolutely stumbling down the road.
3 freshmen were cited for underage drinking. Note the time, 3:15 a.m. Police say the murders could have been taking place at that very moment. The 3 were cited near the Sigma Chi fraternity where Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle attended a party. Look how close it is to the murder house. And look at this. A poignant moment today as police carry boxes of the victims' belongings from inside the house to a U-Haul truck to return them to their grieving families.
Where did these 4 students come from? Where were they heading to? The traffic stop, or the minor alcohol ban-filled stop, started at 2:54 or 2:55. It ended around 3:17. We had 4 figures running from the direction of Kings Road down towards Sigma Chi. Could that all just be a coincidence? Were they involved, or did they witness something? Were they ever questioned? I wonder what the forensic team is taking pictures of, because this is behind, or is it in front of the house, I believe. Is that footsteps? And if that is a footstep, it is a huge footstep. It's a big footstep, I'm sorry to say.
broke last November 13th. 4 students murdered in Moscow, of all places. Well, media arrived from around the country, from everywhere, like a tsunami.
The scene is much quieter tonight.
But KHQ was already there, on the ground, reporting.
We didn't hear anything from authorities, didn't get any confirmation from authorities Sunday night. We had a reporter down there Sunday, and then Monday they sent me down to Moscow, and that's when they decided to start releasing the names.
A story that for your local reporters hit astoundingly close to home.
I'm from Moscow, and when we heard that there were 4 dead kids just on the outskirts of the University of Idaho campus, of course, you're hoping for some sort of explanation to kind of ease the fears.
4 college students stabbed to death in the middle of the night. And you saw the coverage right here. Haley providing it even though she was on maternity leave.
With each hour that passed, really, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. My news director asked, can you help? This is your hometown. These are your people. And so by Tuesday, I was in a car heading to Rathdrum to interview Kaylee's family.
A community on edge.
Investigators are working to follow up on all leads and to identify a person of interest.
How frightening was this for people going to college there?
It was terrifying. Moscow specifically is a very safe community. And so this was horrible and surprising.
Families searching for answers.
I said, I don't know how much longer I could take not knowing. It is killing me slowly.
And the mystery that would slowly unravel would travel far beyond the borders of Idaho. That's tonight on KHQ.
This article was written by the Idaho Tribune. I remember it was one of the first days. It said, area where 4 University of Idaho students were murdered was known party spot. Taxi driver says that's where people go to get drugs. Why would the taxi driver say that to the Idaho Tribune if it wasn't true? Why did Kaylee and Maddie call Jack 10 times altogether? Did they see someone? Or did they want to talk to Jack about what Maddie told Adam? What did Maddie tell Adam? The police said allegedly it wasn't nothing. Everyone was ruled out. The timelines was between 3 to 4 a.m., 3 to 4 at night. Then all of a sudden it changed to 5 past 4. They were searching for a white Hyundai Elantra between the year models of 2011 to 2013. Brian Koberger drives a 2015 Hyundai Elantra. Was there another Hyundai Elantra that passed that way? We are aware that Brian Koberger has been around those areas around 12 to 13 times. He could be a peeper. That doesn't make him a killer. It would have been so much easier if the prosecution handed over the evidence to Ann Taylor so that she can make a proper assessment of how to defend her client. Or we the public could have found out the truth And we could have said, okay, case closed. It's Brian Christopher Koberger, no doubt it's him. But right now, they have just left more speculations. And then they wonder why do we speculate? Obviously, there was 3 unidentified DNAs, and that is not including Brian Koberger. That's excluding him. Could those 3 unidentified DNAs have been the ones that came out from the front door that was left wide open? And what does Bethany Funk know that is so unique that only she can explain her testimony? Was she dating Brian Koberger, allegedly? Was she a friend of Brian Koberger? Because Brian Koberger said that Bethany Funk can exonerate me. So what does she know? Was BF with Brian Koberger that night? How many bushy eyebrows people have you seen? I can count a dozen that have more bushy eyebrows than Brian Koberger. We need more facts. We need more evidence. Everyone is entitled to fair justice. If he's guilty, then he's guilty. But if he's innocent, do we want to send an innocent person to his deathbed? To the firing squad team? I personally believe, this is speculations and this is my thoughts, the prosecution does not have much on Brian Koberger. Others would have handed it over to Ann Taylor. They would have said, now here and here, now take this file, and this is his DNA, and he was there, and he wasn't there. They would have brought it all out. But you know what I personally believe happened? They went and got the DNA, the genealogical DNA, in an incorrect, illegal way. They must have gone and got it from my ancestry or the ones that they're not supposed to use. And if that is the case, and if Brian did it, then that is on the prosecution that messed it up. And it's sad because we're not talking about one victim. We are talking about 4 victims. We're talking about grieving families. I always keep that in my mind, which is important to remember. 45% of the income of Idaho Moscow comes from the college students. Let's think for a moment. Most of us are parents. I have children that ages and younger. Would I ever send my child, my young children, send my children to Idaho Moscow to enroll if I found out that the students or allegedly someone from Sigma Chi was involved, or someone from the grub truck or corner club or anything? Obviously not. So they have an income to protect. Everyone seems to know everyone in Idaho Moscow. I'm talking about the coats. So is this a conflict of interest? Allegedly? What is going on? Timelines have been changed. The car model has been changed. Everything has been changed. The only thing that hasn't been changed, thank God, is the victims. we still have the justice we fight for, Kaylee Congalvis, may she rest in peace. Xana Conodle, may she rest in peace. Ethan Chapin, may he rest in peace. And Madison Morgan, may she rest in peace. Let's not lie. There were many people partying in that house. Many people had the code of the house, just like Alivira Congalvis said, Kaylee's sister. We saw 4 figures running. We were watching Mr. Bushy Eyebrows in the alcohol miner Banfield stop, swiping into pictures that look like a crime scene. I'm saying it out loud because enough is enough. This is not fair. What do they usually say? If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's probably a duck. What a coincidence. The police was called for a fight at the Sigma Chi. Where were the Sigma Chi boys? Their president said, oh, we don't have cameras here. Nothing to see, we don't have cameras. So could you count all the heads, Mr. President or Sigma Chi? Where were your boys? Was it your boys that were running around the field that night? John Jack Showalter was driving to a cabin that was 5 hours and 45 minutes away in Boise, Idaho. His parents are allegedly well connected with the mayor, attorney defense of Boise, and many other places. I'm not saying that he's guilty, but the last person I saw with Kaylee and Maddie was him, and he looked upset that they left him. I like how people say, oh, he's a nice guy. He was just escorting them. He wasn't escorting anyone. If he was escorting them, they wouldn't have ran away from him. They would have waited and taken him along. He lives only 2 minutes away from the girls. He's been kicked out of the fraternity. Was it the Delta fraternity? He's been up to a lot of mischief, that young man. Loves playing with K-bar knives. Why is all eyes on Brian Koberg only? We need to go thoroughly through all the people of interest from the beginning. Where was Jack D that night? Just a question. Murphy did not bark too much. Did he know the suspect or the suspects? Jack D and Kaylee Congalvis broke up, I believe, in 2020. They were dating from 2016 to 2020. I remembered reading a lot in the Instagrams and all. It did not seem like they were together recently. Kaylee was moving to Houston. She was searching for a roommate. She bought herself the car of her dreams. She was taking her lovely dog Murphy. I'm not saying Jack did anything. All I'm saying is he could have had a motive. So could have John Jack Showalter. Justice for these victims. Condolence to their families, and may justice be served. Please like, share, and subscribe.